Somewhere in a quiet museum, long after the doors have closed and the last visitor has gone home, there sits a small brass lantern behind a pane of glass. Nobody knows exactly how old it is. Nobody knows exactly where it came from. The little card beside it simply says, "Found near an old riverbank. Origin unknown." But if you have ever wondered what it felt like to walk beside the Nile River 4,000 years ago, or to hear the creak of a Viking ship sliding into cold northern water, or to smell warm bread baking in a Roman kitchen, then perhaps tonight, just for a little while, that lantern is waiting for you. Tonight, you are going to travel, not with a suitcase, not with a map, but with something far gentler, your own imagination, guided softly by real history. You will visit the pyramids while they still gleamed white in the desert sun. You will stand in a marketplace in ancient China where silk was a secret worth more than gold. You will hear the quiet footsteps of a Maya astronomer climbing stone steps to watch the stars. You will meet farmers, potters, sailors, scribes, and quiet children just like you, who lived long ago in worlds that felt just as real to them as yours does to you. There is no need to remember anything. There is no test at the end. All you need to do is get comfortable, let your eyes rest, and let your mind drift gently backward through time, one calm story at a time, until somewhere between one ancient civilization and the next, you fall asleep. You will meet a king who conquered half the known world and then chose to lay down his sword forever. And you will meet ordinary bakers, weavers, shepherds, and scribes whose quiet, patient work built the very foundation civilizations were raised upon. You will discover why an entire language once fell completely silent for centuries, and how one single stone helped the world learn to hear it speak again. You will wonder, gently, at cities so carefully planned they still puzzle modern engineers, and at sailors who crossed open ocean guided by nothing but starlight, memory, and the quiet rhythm of the waves themselves. Let us begin, softly, beside a great river that the ancient Egyptians simply called Iteru, the river, because to them, it was the only one that mattered. Imagine you are standing on a low hill just outside a small village in ancient Egypt, somewhere around 4,000 years ago. The air is warm, but not harsh, because the sun has just begun to lower itself toward the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and rose. Below you, stretching as far as you can see in both directions, flows a wide, unhurried river. Its water is a deep blue-green, and its surface barely ripples except where a heron dips its long beak to catch a fish. This is the Nile, and to the people who live along its banks, it is not simply a river. It is the reason anything can live here at all. You breathe in, and the air smells of damp earth, ripening barley, and a faint sweetness from the date palms swaying gently nearby. Egypt is mostly desert, dry and golden and endless. But here, in this narrow green strip beside the water, life flourishes in a way that would seem almost magical if you did not understand its secret. Every year, in a season the Egyptians called Akhet, the Nile rises. It floods gently over its banks and spreads a thin layer of dark, rich mud across the fields. This mud is called silt, and it is filled with everything a plant needs to grow. The Egyptians did not have modern fertilizer or machines, yet their fields produced enough wheat and barley to feed an entire kingdom, all because of this quiet, yearly gift from the river. You walk down the hill and follow a dusty path toward the village. Along the way, you pass a farmer named Senu, though of course you cannot know his real name, since history remembers so few common people by name. He is guiding a wooden plow pulled by two patient oxen, their hooves sinking softly into the moist soil. His skin is deeply tanned from years beneath the sun, and he wears a simple kilt made of pale linen, cool and practical for the heat. Nearby, his children help scatter seeds behind him, their small feet leaving prints in the soft mud that will soon disappear beneath new green shoots. Further along, you reach the edge of the village itself. The houses here are made of mud brick, shaped by hand and dried in the sun until they become hard and sturdy. They are simple, cool inside despite the heat outside, with small high windows that let in light but keep out the worst of the midday sun. Smoke curls gently from an outdoor oven where a woman is baking flat, round loaves of bread, one of the most important foods in Egyptian life. The smell drifting toward you is warm and slightly nutty, a scent that has not changed in thousands of years because bread was, and still is, one of humanity's oldest comforts. As the sky deepens into a soft violet, you notice something remarkable. In the distance, beyond the fields and the palm trees, 3 enormous shapes rise against the horizon, their sides catching the last light of the sun. These are the pyramids of Giza, still relatively new at this point in history. Their limestone casing stones so smooth and polished that they seem to glow. Historians have long debated exactly how the ancient Egyptians managed to build such massive structures using only simple tools, ramps, ropes, and enormous teams of skilled workers. For many years, people mistakenly believed the pyramids were built by enslaved people, but archaeological discoveries of worker villages nearby have shown something gentler and more surprising. Many of the builders were paid laborers, farmers who worked on the pyramids during the months when the flooded fields could not be farmed, and they were given bread, beer, and meat as payment, along with medical care when they were injured. You sit quietly on a low stone wall as evening settles fully over the village. Somewhere nearby, a mother hums softly to a baby, and the sound blends with the gentle lowing of cattle being led home for the night. Above you, the stars begin to appear, and you remember that the Egyptians believed the sky itself was a great goddess named Nut, who stretched her body across the heavens each night, swallowing the sun as it set and giving birth to it again each morning. It was one of the ways they explained the endless, comforting cycle of day following night, a cycle you yourself are about to follow, right into sleep. Further along the riverbank, you notice fishermen easing narrow reed boats into the water, their vessels woven from papyrus reeds that grow thick and tall along the Nile's edge. This same plant, so ordinary looking, would soon become something extraordinary in the hands of Egyptian craftsmen, sliced into thin strips, layered, pressed, and dried into sheets of paper, one of the most important inventions to come from this land, allowing records, stories, and prayers to be written down and carried easily from place to place. Nearby, women gather at a shaded spot along the bank, filling tall clay jars with water balanced gracefully atop their heads, chatting quietly about the coming harvest and a wedding planned for the next full moon. Their linen dresses, simple and pale, sway gently as they walk, and you notice how carefully everything here seems tuned to the rhythm of the river itself: work, rest, celebration, and worship, all moving in gentle harmony with the yearly flood. In the far distance, you can just make out workers returning from the quarries, their day's labor finished, walking slowly along a path lined with tamarisk trees whose feathery branches offer a little shade from the last of the day's heat. Egypt was never an easy land to live in, its desert stretching harsh and unforgiving on either side of this narrow green ribbon. Yet the people who settled here learned, over thousands of patient years, to read the river's moods so well that they built one of the longest lasting civilizations the world has ever known. Its calendar, its farming methods, and its quiet daily rhythms remaining remarkably steady for well over 3,000 years. The lantern light flickers gently, and the scene of the river begins to soften at the edges, like a dream folding quietly into another dream, ready to carry you further into the story of this ancient land. The night has grown a little deeper now, and the village by the Nile has grown quiet, but your journey is not finished. You find yourself somewhere new, still in Egypt, but many years later, inside a small mud brick building attached to a grand temple. This is a school for scribes, and it smells of dry papyrus, ink made from crushed minerals, and the faint dust of limestone floors. A boy about your age sits cross-legged on a woven mat, a wooden board balanced on his knees, carefully copying symbols with a thin reed brush dipped in black ink. The symbols he writes are called hieroglyphs, and there are hundreds of them, each representing a sound, an idea, or an object. Learning to read and write in ancient Egypt took years of patient practice, and only a small number of people, mostly boys from families who could afford it, were trained to become scribes. Yet becoming a scribe was one of the most respected jobs a person could hold, because scribes recorded everything: harvests, taxes, prayers, medicine, stories, and the great deeds of pharaohs. Without them, we would know almost nothing about this ancient world at all. For a very long time after ancient Egypt faded into history, nobody in the modern world could read these beautiful symbols anymore. The knowledge had simply been lost, passed down through fewer and fewer people until it disappeared completely. Hieroglyphs became a mystery, admired for their beauty but silent, their meaning locked away. Then, in the year 1799, soldiers digging near a town called Rosetta discovered a large, dark stone slab, now known as the Rosetta Stone. What made this stone so extraordinary was that the same message had been carved onto it 3 times, once in hieroglyphs, once in a simpler Egyptian script called Demotic, and once in ancient Greek, a language scholars could already read. It still took more than 20 years of careful, patient work before a French scholar named Jean-François Champollion finally cracked the code in 1822. Realizing that hieroglyphs were not simply pictures, but a rich mixture of sounds and symbols together. Imagine spending 20 years quietly puzzling over a single mystery, refusing to give up, simply because you believed the answer mattered. Thanks to his patience, we can now read the words the ancient Egyptians left behind, from grand hymns to the gods down to a farmer's small, ordinary complaint about the price of donkeys. You watch the boy scribe finish his lesson, and his teacher, an older man with kind, tired eyes, nods with quiet approval. Outside, the temple bells, small bronze instruments called sistrums, chime gently as priests begin an evening ceremony. The Egyptians believed deeply in an afterlife, a peaceful continuation of existence beyond death, and much of their art, writing, and architecture was created with this belief in mind. They believed that if a person lived a good and balanced life, their heart would be light enough, when weighed after death against a single feather belonging to the goddess Ma'at, to pass safely into a beautiful afterlife, much like the world they already knew, filled with green fields, flowing water, and gentle sunlight. This is part of why they preserved bodies so carefully through a process called mummification, believing the body needed to remain whole for the spirit to recognize it and live on peacefully. The process was slow and precise, involving natural salt called natron, sweet-smelling resins, and soft linen wrappings, often taking as long as 70 days to complete. It might sound unusual to modern ears, but to the ancient Egyptians, it was simply an act of love and hope, a careful effort to help someone they cared about continue their journey. As the temple lamps dim one by one, you notice how peaceful the courtyard has become. A soft breeze moves through the columns, carrying the scent of lotus flowers floating in a shallow pool nearby. Somewhere, a cat, an animal the Egyptians considered sacred and protective, stretches lazily in a patch of fading warmth. The Egyptians believed cats guarded homes from evil and misfortune, and families often welcomed them the way you might welcome a beloved pet today. Beyond the temple walls, a physician sits quietly in a small clinic attached to the courtyard, grinding herbs with a smooth stone pestle. Ancient Egyptian medicine was surprisingly advanced for its time, blending practical knowledge with spiritual belief. Physicians studied wounds, set broken bones, and prescribed remedies made from honey, willow, bark, and other natural ingredients, some of which modern scientists have since confirmed genuinely helped fight infection or ease pain. A famous medical text known today as the Edwin Smith Papyrus describes surgical techniques with such calm, careful precision that historians consider it one of the earliest known scientific documents in human history. Remarkable for how clearly it separates practical treatment from purely magical explanation, even though prayers and charms were still often used alongside physical remedies. Nearby, a young girl watches curiously as her grandmother teaches her to weave a small reed basket, her fingers moving slowly and patiently over strands still slightly damp from the riverbank. Baskets like these were used for nearly everything in Egyptian daily life, carrying grain, storing linen, or holding the small clay dolls and carved animal toys that Egyptian children, much like children everywhere, cherished and played with happily. As the last light fades beyond the temple pylons, a soft chorus of frogs begins along the riverbank, blending gently with distant temple chanting, a peaceful evening symphony that would have sounded almost exactly the same to a child falling asleep beside this river 4,000 years ago. You close your eyes for just a moment, listening to the gentle lapping of water in the courtyard pool, and when you open them again, the temple has faded, replaced by starlight and the quiet hum of a much older land, one where writing itself was first invented. The lantern's glow shifts gently, and you find yourself somewhere new, standing between two great rivers whose names still echo through history, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This land, called Mesopotamia, meaning the land between rivers, sits in what is now modern-day Iraq, and it is often called the cradle of civilization because so many important human inventions began here. The evening air is warm and dry, carrying the smell of baked clay and simmering lentil stew from nearby homes. Around you rises the city of Uruk, one of the very first true cities in human history, home to tens of thousands of people at a time when most humans still lived in small farming villages. Ahead of you stands a massive stepped structure called a ziggurat, a temple built in layers like a giant staircase reaching toward the sky, dedicated to the city's patron goddess. Its mud brick walls glow faintly orange in the light of torches lining the pathway. You walk closer and notice merchants finishing their trading for the day, wrapping up bundles of wool, jars of oil, and baskets of dates. Sumerians, the people who built this civilization, were remarkably practical and inventive. It was here, around 5,000 years ago, that writing itself was likely invented, not the flowing pictures of Egyptian hieroglyphs, but a system called cuneiform, made by pressing a wedge-shaped reed stylus into soft clay tablets. At first, this writing was used simply to keep track of grain, sheep, and trade, practical records for a growing, busy society. Over time, however, cuneiform grew into something much richer, capable of recording laws, poems, and one of the oldest stories ever written down, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This ancient poem tells the story of a powerful king who searches for the meaning of life and the possibility of living forever, only to learn, gently and wisely, that it is the connections we build and the good we leave behind that truly last. Historians find it remarkable that a story written so long ago still speaks to feelings people experience today, showing that no matter how much time passes, human hearts often wonder about the same quiet questions. You pause beside a small clay tablet resting on a merchant's table, its surface covered in neat, wedge-shaped marks. A young apprentice scribe sits nearby, practicing his lettering by candlelight. His lessons much like the ones you saw earlier in Egypt, though the symbols themselves are entirely different. Scribal schools in Mesopotamia were called ajubas, meaning tablet houses, and students there studied mathematics as well as writing. In fact, the Sumerians and later the Babylonians developed a number system based on 60 rather than 10, and traces of it remain in our lives even now. Every time you look at a clock and see 60 minutes in an hour, or 60 seconds in a minute, or notice a circle divided into 360 degrees. As night deepens, you notice priests moving quietly along the ziggurat stairways, carrying small oil lamps to honor the gods believed to control rain, harvests, and the rivers themselves. The people of Mesopotamia depended on the Tigris and Euphrates just as deeply as the Egyptians depended on the Nile, though these rivers were less predictable, sometimes flooding suddenly and without warning. This unpredictability shaped their beliefs, filling their myths with themes of chaos, order, and the delicate balance between them. Nearby, a potter named Belili, working late by lamplight, shapes a clay jar on a simple turning wheel, one of humanity's earliest and most transformative inventions. The wheel, first used here for pottery before it was ever used for transportation, allowed for faster, more even crafting of everyday objects, quietly changing daily life in ways still felt today. The streets grow quiet as families retreat indoors for the night, gathering around low fires to share a simple meal of barley bread, dates, and goat cheese. Children curl up on woven mats, listening to parents or grandparents retell old stories passed down through generations, stories of gods, floods, and heroic kings, long before any of them were ever written down at all. Earlier, before the marketplace closed for the evening, you watched a group of officials carefully reviewing a set of laws carved into a tall stone stele, rules governing fair trade, honest weights and measures, and the treatment of workers, an early example of a society trying to put justice into permanent public writing rather than leaving it to memory or the whim of a single ruler. Centuries after this quiet Sumerian evening, a Babylonian king named Hammurabi would create an even more famous collection of laws. But the idea of writing down fair rules for an entire society to see and follow had already begun taking root here, in this land between two rivers. You also notice, tucked along a quiet street, a small workshop where a weaver works a loom made from wool sheared from plump, contented sheep grazing on nearby pasture land, since Mesopotamia's economy depended not only on grain but also on vast flocks tended by patient shepherds across the surrounding plains. The city walls of Uruk, tall and imposing, stretch far into the darkness, said in later legend to have been built by the great king Gilgamesh himself, a story blending real history with myth so gently that historians still enjoy tracing where one ends and the other quietly begins. You feel your own eyes growing heavy now, lulled by the gentle murmur of the city settling into sleep. The lantern's light dims softly, carrying you eastward toward another remarkable civilization that still holds on to some of its deepest secrets. You drift now toward a land east of Mesopotamia, along the banks of a great river called the Indus, in what is today Pakistan and northwest India. The lantern's glow settles over a city called Mohenjo-Daro, one of the largest and most advanced cities of the ancient world, flourishing around 4,500 years ago. What makes this place different from the others you have visited tonight is that, even now, in modern times, historians are still trying to fully understand its people, because the writing they left behind has never been translated. Short inscriptions on seals and pottery remain, quiet and beautiful, but silent, their meaning still just out of reach. As you walk through the moonlit streets, you notice something remarkable: order. Unlike many ancient cities that grew slowly and randomly over centuries, Mohenjo-Daro appears to have been carefully planned from the very beginning. Streets are laid out in a neat grid, crossing each other at right angles, almost like a modern city map. Beneath your feet runs something even more surprising: a covered drainage system built from baked bricks, carrying wastewater safely away from homes. Many houses even have their own private bathing areas connected to this system, a level of cleanliness and engineering that would not become common again in much of the world for thousands of years afterward. You pass a large, rectangular pool built from tightly fitted, waterproofed bricks, now known as the Great Bath. Historians believe it may have been used for ritual bathing, a practice tied to purification and spiritual cleanliness, though its exact purpose, like so much about this civilization, remains gently uncertain. Nearby stand large brick warehouses, likely used to store grain collected from surrounding farms, hinting at a well-organized system of trade and food distribution across a wide region. The people of the Indus Valley civilization traded goods across enormous distances. Their small carved stone seals, often decorated with images of animals like elephants, bulls, and unicorns of uncertain meaning, found as far away as ancient Mesopotamia. This tells historians that merchants from this land sailed and traveled great distances, carrying cotton textiles, beads, and spices to distant markets, and returning with silver, wool, and other goods in exchange. You notice something else unusual as you walk quietly through the sleeping city, an absence rather than a presence. Unlike Egypt with its towering pyramids built for powerful pharaohs, or Mesopotamia with its grand temples built to honor mighty kings, Mohenjo-Daro shows very few signs of grand palaces or extravagant royal tombs. Historians still debate what this means. Some believe the society may have been governed more by councils or shared leadership rather than a single powerful ruler. Others believe evidence of such structures may simply not have survived or has not yet been discovered. A gentle breeze moves through the empty streets, and you imagine, for a moment, the sounds that once filled them, children laughing in courtyards, the soft clink of clay bangles worn by women grinding grain, craftsmen shaping delicate beads from carnelian and lapis lazuli, cattle lowing gently in walled pens nearby, toy figures discovered by archaeologists, tiny carved animals with wheels, small clay carts, and delicate whistle-shaped birds suggest that children here played much like children everywhere, with simple, cheerful toys crafted by loving hands. Around 1,500 years before the Common Era, this remarkable civilization began to fade. Its great cities slowly emptied and eventually abandoned. Historians still discuss several possible reasons: shifting river courses that disrupted farming, gradual climate changes that brought long periods of drought, or perhaps a combination of many smaller pressures building slowly over generations rather than one single dramatic event. Because so much remains unknown, this civilization carries a particularly quiet, thoughtful kind of mystery, a whisper from the past rather than a shout, patiently waiting for future discoveries to help complete its story. As you walk back toward the edge of the silent city, the moonlight catches the smooth, sun-baked bricks one final time, and you feel a peaceful kind of wonder, the comforting knowledge that history still holds gentle secrets, waiting patiently to be understood in their own time, without any rush at all. Before you leave, you pass one final workshop near the city's edge, where a craftsman carefully polishes a small stone seal, no larger than your thumb, engraving it with the delicate image of a humped bull. These tiny seals, historians believe, were pressed into soft clay to mark ownership of goods or to seal shut the necks of storage jars, much like a signature might be used today. Thousands of these seals have been found by archaeologists, many far from this city itself, carried along ancient trade routes to distant lands, quiet proof of just how widely these people once traveled and traded. You also notice the careful uniformity of the bricks used throughout the city, each one nearly identical in size, no matter where it was made, suggesting some kind of shared standard was used across the entire civilization, a remarkably organized detail for a society whose full system of government remains gently uncertain to modern historians. Somewhere in the quiet darkness beyond the city walls, a dog barks once, then settles, and you feel the peaceful stillness of a civilization that valued order, cleanliness, and craftsmanship above grand displays of power, a gentle, thoughtful people whose full story is still, patiently, being written by the archaeologists who continue studying them today. The lantern flickers once more, and the ancient river city fades softly into mist, carrying you onward toward the east, where dragons, silk, and ancient wisdom await. The mist clears gently, and you find yourself standing at the edge of a peaceful valley in ancient China, somewhere around 3,000 years ago, during a time known as the Zhou dynasty, though the roots of what you are about to see stretch back even further. Terraced fields curve gracefully along the hillsides, their neat rows glowing faintly silver green beneath a rising moon. The air smells of damp rice paddies, wood smoke, and something faintly sweet drifting from a nearby grove of mulberry trees. You follow a quiet path toward those mulberry trees and discover a small farmhouse where a woman is carefully tending shallow woven trays filled with tiny, pale caterpillars. These are silkworms, and the work she is doing is one of the most closely guarded secrets in the ancient world. According to Chinese tradition, the discovery of silk is credited to a legendary empress named Lizu, who is said to have first noticed how a silkworm's cocoon could be gently unwound into a single, impossibly fine thread. For thousands of years afterward, the secret of how silk was made remained protected almost as carefully as a national treasure, and anyone caught trying to smuggle silkworm eggs out of China could face severe punishment. This precious fabric eventually traveled thousands of miles along trade routes we now call the Silk Road, reaching Persia, Rome, and beyond, admired for its softness and shimmering beauty. You continue walking, and the landscape shifts gently to reveal a small village gathering beneath a large banyan tree, its wide branches offering cool shade even in the gentle evening air. An elderly teacher sits calmly among a group of young students, speaking softly about kindness, respect, and the importance of treating others the way you yourself would wish to be treated. Although this scene takes place slightly earlier than his actual lifetime, it reflects values that would later be beautifully expressed by the philosopher Confucius, whose teachings about respect for family, honesty, and quiet wisdom would shape Chinese culture for thousands of years afterward, influencing not only China, but also Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. Nearby, you notice cracked, blackened pieces of turtle shell and animal bone resting on a low table. These are oracle bones, and they represent one of the earliest known forms of Chinese writing, used centuries before this scene during the Shang dynasty. Diviners would carve questions onto these bones, then apply intense heat until the surface cracked, believing the pattern of the cracks could reveal answers about harvests, weather, or important decisions. The written characters carved onto these bones are the direct ancestors of Chinese characters still used today, making Chinese one of the oldest continuously used writing systems in the entire world. As the evening deepens, you hear a soft, rhythmic sound drifting from a nearby workshop, the gentle clinking of bronze being carefully shaped. Ancient Chinese metalworkers were extraordinarily skilled, producing intricate bronze vessels used in ceremonies to honor ancestors, a practice deeply important throughout Chinese history. Respect for ancestors was not simply tradition, but a heartfelt belief that family connections continued even after death, with descendants offering food, wine, and quiet prayers to honor those who came before them. Far to the north, though not yet built in the grand form we recognize today, early walls and fortifications are beginning to rise along the empire's borders. Modest early versions of what would, centuries later, grow into the immense Great Wall of China. Built and rebuilt across many different dynasties, the wall was never truly a single continuous structure, but rather a connected patchwork of walls, watchtowers, and fortifications constructed over more than 2,000 years, intended to protect settled farming communities from raids by nomadic groups to the north. You settle quietly beneath the banyan tree as the village lanterns are lit one by one, small paper-covered lights that glow warmly against the deepening indigo sky. A grandmother nearby hums a gentle folk tune to a sleepy child resting in her lap, the same kind of quiet lullaby that has likely been sung in one form or another for countless generations. The scent of steamed rice and ginger drifts from a nearby kitchen, mixing softly with the cool night air and the faint sweetness of blossoming plum trees. As your own eyelids grow heavier, you notice the stars beginning to fill the sky above the valley, and you remember that ancient Chinese astronomers were remarkably skilled observers of the heavens, carefully recording comets, eclipses, and the movements of planets for thousands of years, creating some of the oldest continuous astronomical records in human history. Their careful, patient watching of the sky feels, in this quiet moment, very much like your own gentle journey through time tonight, patient, curious, and calm. Before the village settles fully into sleep, you pass a small workshop where a papermaker works quietly by lamplight. Though this particular craft, so important to the future of writing everywhere, would not be fully perfected until several centuries later, when an official named Kai Lun refined the process of turning mulberry bark, hemp fibers, and old cloth into smooth, affordable sheets of paper. Until then, and even for a while afterward, Chinese scribes also wrote on strips of bamboo, tied together with cord into long, rolling scrolls that could be unrolled and read much like a modern book, though far heavier and bulkier to carry. You notice a farmer nearby carefully checking a simple but ingenious irrigation channel, redirecting water from a nearby stream into his terraced rice paddy, a method of farming that allowed Chinese communities to grow enormous amounts of food, even on hilly, uneven land, supporting one of the largest populations of any ancient civilization. Somewhere across the valley, a distant gong sounds softly, marking the changing of a night watch, and you feel the quiet, careful order of a civilization that valued harmony, patience, and respect for tradition as deeply as it valued invention and progress. The lantern dims once more, and the peaceful Chinese valley fades softly away, drawing you now toward the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece. The lantern's glow warms slightly, taking on the golden hue of a Mediterranean afternoon, and you find yourself walking along a dusty road leading into the ancient city of Athens, sometime around 2,500 years ago. Olive trees line the hillsides, their silvery leaves rustling softly in a warm breeze that carries the mingled scents of salty sea air, ripening figs, and fresh baked bread from a nearby market stall. Ahead of you, rising proudly atop a rocky hill, stands the Acropolis, crowned by the elegant marble columns of the Parthenon, a temple built to honor the goddess Athena, protector of the city. Though today its marble has weathered to a soft ivory, in this moment it gleams almost white, its carved details once brightly painted in reds, blues, and golds, a detail many people today are surprised to learn, since we often imagine ancient Greek buildings as plain white stone. You wander into the Agora, the bustling heart of the city, a large open marketplace surrounded by covered walkways called stoas. Here, merchants sell pottery, olive oil, wool, and fresh fish, their voices blending into a cheerful, ordinary hum. But the Agora was more than simply a marketplace. It was also where citizens gathered to discuss ideas, debate politics, and simply enjoy each other's company. It was here, and in similar public spaces, that a remarkable new idea began to take root, the idea that ordinary citizens should have a voice in how their city was governed. This system, called democracy, meaning rule by the people, was not perfect by modern standards, since only free adult men born in Athens could actually vote, excluding women, enslaved people, and foreigners. Still, it planted an idea that would eventually grow and spread across the world, shaping the very idea of government still discussed and admired today. As you continue through the Agora, you notice a small group gathered around an older man with a plain robe, bare feet, and a thoughtful, patient expression. This is a philosopher, someone devoted to asking deep questions about truth, goodness, and the nature of life itself. Ancient Athens produced remarkable thinkers like Socrates, who taught not by lecturing, but by gently asking question after question, encouraging his students to examine their own beliefs carefully. His student Plato later founded a school called the Academy, and Plato's own student, Aristotle, studied nearly every subject imaginable, from biology to astronomy to ethics, laying groundwork for scientific thinking that would influence scholars for thousands of years afterward. You follow a narrow street away from the agora and discover a quieter courtyard where a group of young athletes are practicing before an upcoming competition. Historians know that the very first recorded Olympic Games took place in 776 years before the Common Era in the city of Olympia, held in honor of Zeus, king of the gods. These games, held every 4 years, were so important that wars between rival Greek city-states were sometimes paused so that athletes and spectators could travel safely to compete and celebrate together, a tradition called the Olympic Truce. Evening begins to settle gently over Athens, and oil lamps flicker to life in windows across the city. From a nearby home, you hear the soft, unmistakable sound of a lyre being played, its gentle notes accompanying someone quietly reciting poetry, perhaps verses from Homer's great epic tales of Troy and Odysseus, stories passed down for generations before ever being written down, memorized, and performed by traveling poets called rhapsodes. The Greeks believed deeply in a wide family of gods and goddesses living atop Mount Olympus, each ruling over different parts of life: the sea, the harvest, wisdom, love, and war. Rather than distant, unreachable figures, these gods were imagined with very human emotions: jealousy, pride, love, and mischief. And their myths were used to explain everything from thunderstorms to the changing seasons, while also teaching important lessons about courage, humility, and the consequences of pride. As the last light fades from the sky, you sit quietly on the marble steps of a small temple, feeling the day's warmth still radiating gently from the stone beneath you. Below, the city settles into a peaceful evening hush, punctuated softly by distant laughter, the clink of wine cups, and the gentle rhythm of waves from the nearby harbor of Piraeus. You breathe in slowly, feeling remarkably calm, surrounded by a civilization that valued curiosity, beauty, and the quiet pursuit of wisdom above almost everything else. Earlier in the day, you had wandered past a small outdoor theater carved into a hillside, its curved stone seats rising in gentle rows around a circular stage. Ancient Greek theater was another remarkable invention of this era, with playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides writing dramas, exploring fate, family, pride, and justice, performed by actors wearing painted masks so that even audience members seated far away could tell which character was speaking. These plays were not simply entertainment. They were performed as part of religious festivals honoring the god Dionysus, and attending them was considered an important civic duty, much like voting or serving on a jury. You also remember pausing beside a small medical clinic, where a physician trained in the tradition of Hippocrates carefully examined a patient, believing firmly that illness came from natural causes rather than the anger of the gods. A genuinely revolutionary idea at the time, and one that laid an early foundation for the careful, evidence-based thinking still valued in medicine today. Even now, physicians around the world sometimes take a promise called the Hippocratic Oath, tracing its roots directly back to this same thoughtful tradition born here in ancient Greece. The lantern glows softly once more, and Athens fades gently into a warm golden mist, carrying you now toward another great civilization, one that would learn from Greece and build something even larger upon its foundations. The golden mist shifts, and you find yourself standing on a wide, remarkably smooth stone road, stretching in a straight line toward the horizon in both directions. This is a Roman road, part of an enormous network built to connect the vast Roman Empire. And there is an old saying you may already know: that all roads lead to Rome. Standing here, feeling the sturdy, carefully fitted stones beneath your feet, you understand why that saying began. You follow the road toward the city itself, and soon you are surrounded by the busy, cheerful chaos of ancient Rome at its height, roughly 2,000 years ago. The streets are crowded with people from every corner of the empire, merchants calling out prices for spices and pottery, children weaving between market stalls, and the rich smell of grilled sausages and fresh bread drifting from small food stalls called thermopolia, an ancient version of a fast food counter where busy city dwellers without kitchens of their own could grab a quick, warm meal. Rising above the rooftops, you glimpse the Colosseum, its massive curved walls the color of warm honey in the afternoon light. This enormous amphitheater could hold tens of thousands of spectators who gathered here for large public events, including gladiator contests. While these contests were sometimes violent, historians note that many gladiators were actually skilled, trained fighters who could become celebrated heroes, sometimes even earning their freedom through victory and popularity, rather than being simply doomed captives. A more complicated reality than popular imagination often suggests. You continue past graceful stone arches carrying fresh water high above the streets. These are Roman aqueducts, remarkable feats of engineering that carried clean water from distant mountain springs into the heart of the city, using nothing but a very gentle, carefully calculated downward slope to keep the water flowing steadily for many miles. This water fed public fountains, grand bathhouses, and even flushed early versions of public toilets, giving many Roman cities a level of everyday cleanliness that would not be matched again in much of Europe for well over 1,000